Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 The New Order as Iberian. Let's continue on from where we last left off. So, we're still trying to deal with the oil crisis. I mean, it's not going well. I think I can say that. People have been saying in the comments that we're not actually past the point where a civil war could theoretically threaten Iberia. Well, I still don't think it's going to happen. I still feel like we are, like, even though it can theoretically happen, I still feel like we're past that point where Iberia will explode. Like, I'm counting on that to be the case. You know, fingers crossed. People have been saying that you should join up with the United States as fast as possible, just in case the country explodes. Just so we can maybe get some American backing or something like that in the future. The metal workers commute. Urbina Silva is not a wealthy man. He never had been. The son of a man horribly deep in debt at a time before public schooling, he never learned to read, and as Iberia's economy modernized, he was left further behind. He was a sheet metal worker working at the ENVC shipyard just north of Porto. He felt very lucky to have that job. Even as his pay barely covered his living costs, and even as he suffered a 30-kilometer commute to and from work. He made 12.20 pestas an hour, and every day he purchased around 8 liters of gasoline at 3 pestas each. It was pricey, unacceptably pricey, even before the oil crisis. He needed to work 2 hours just to buy enough gas for the day. Urbano had been trying to scrape together whatever funds he could to rent an apartment close to the workplace to save money on gas. But now that gas cost 4.50 pestas a liter, he had to work 3.5 hours just to drive to and from work. Now, he did not spend only 20% of his income on gas, he spent 30%. Which expenses was he going to have to cut back, dip into his savings account hoping the oil crisis ends soon, knowing that it would further delay his efforts to find an apartment close to work. Depends on the mercy of soup kitchens for himself and his youngest son. Not buy new clothes for the boy, beg his landlord for lower rent. It's not like he could find a job closer to home. The recession only seemed to get worse with each passing week. Who am I but a serf laboring for fuel? Yeah, when you're spending like half of your paycheck, just getting to and from, I guess not half, 30%. Still, you know, too much. Porto is here. So, I mean, this guy lives probably in, like, this city, going to and from work. Okay, it looks like Central Siberia has won their war. So, I mean, it's going to go down, like, Russia's going to go down between these two. One has 81 divisions, the other one has 26 at most. So, I mean, when you look at it that way, it doesn't seem very good. Okay, I think we need to do all of these first. Let's go with earn your wage. Slashing fuel subsidies. The previous provisions of fuel subsidies to certain sectors of the economy had been justified upon the grounds that it was a necessary component for industry to grow, and hence it should be provided to any extent by the government to help Spain compete abroad. Even prior to the crisis, this policy has been deeply criticized by members of our government who argued that all of it was doing was racing precious resources, which would need to be allocated more efficiently by the market. The crisis has given these arguments further impetus, throwing even previous defenders behind the idea that reform was needed. In order to adjust to the crisis, we hence need to ensure that little oil we can salvage for the economy is allocated to sectors of the economy that need it. Hence, only those that can pay full price and highly demand it should be able to claim it. Now, the poor can have a few subsidies. Yeah, and I feel like cutting all fuel subsidies so that basically nobody, like, how is that guy gonna get to and from work? It's not gonna happen if we cut, like, literally all subsidies. Okay, so it's like we got Ba'athist Iraq and the Republic of Kurdistan. I'm assuming Ba'athist Iraq is probably gonna end up winning. I think the Ba'athists are aligned with Germany, which is not great. Eco-Rise is still, which is you. No oil for the tank. The First Armored Battalion had been running exercises for most of the past week, as the Iberian army embarked once more on its annual struggle to overcome the linguistic, doctrinal, and cultural divide between the two halves. For the most part, grid tests could not wait for them to be over. Time after time, weakness of the Federal Army had been revealed, both on and off the battlefield. Yet, Madrid still has refused to take action. This time has proving no different. Until, of course, he, during refueling, discovered the armored vehicle was not filling up with fuel. A 10-minute walk and talk with over half a dozen personnel later brought him to the major of the base to explain the situation for the umpteenth time that day. Lieutenant, new regulations from Madrid state that petrol supplies are for reserved for civilian use only, with none being allocated for military vehicles unless absolutely necessary. Taking a moment to compose himself, the major fixed Grutes with the glare. Now, for the love of God, please inform your unit so I don't have to keep answering inane questions, but who can't be bothered to read a newspaper and let me get on with my actual job. Like, there's no fuel at all? It seems like maybe an issue. I mean, I can just buy more oil. Where is trade? Like, I have a little bit of a surplus, and we're importing. We only need 21. We have a surplus of daily gain 34. Yeah, we have a surplus like 400 fuel. Is that not enough? Can I not like maybe divert some of that to deal with this oil crisis in like some capacity? We're gonna lose some stability. We're gonna lose some market liberal. Our expenses will decrease a little bit. You are more stability loss. Awesome. Thank you. Let the market sort itself out. I mean, we might as well get all this stuff done. We're going to lose stability. Man, I guess we're at 63%, which isn't horrible. Like, there are much worse positions for it to be. And you guys are all part of the United Arab States. The question is, will you end up... I like how they're also the ones dealing with the oil crisis, even though the oil is coming from their country. Okay. Many film critics found it quite embarrassing to think that Iberian's most successful film would be a raunchy comedy about two men's quest to get laid. Alas, thou shalt not covet thy fifth-floor neighbor is virtually certain to obtain the honor within a few weeks. So many weekend release sold over 3 times as many tickets as the City's Not For Me did 4 years ago. The story revolves around two men. One man's gynecology office is failing because he is so attractive that he makes his client's husbands jealous. The other man's dressmaking business is thriving because he is perceived as non-threatening by his client's husbands. This, the dressmaker explains, is because he pretends to be homosexual. The two men help each other to obtain one-night stands, but rumors spread that the men are in fact a gay couple. A hilarious situation ensues as their suspected abnormal perversions turn them into pariahs and threaten to destroy their business and personal relationships. Conservative critics have criticized the film for its bawdiness. Bawdiness? But otherwise, the film has been proven uncontroversial. The antics of the characters are amusing, and it makes the light taboo subjects with polite society would never dare discuss. That looks like it's probably from a real movie. A nasty cough. It had shaped up as to become a day for the exhausted Franco could have ever hoped for. His family and his closest supporters sat either side of him, indulging in one of his finest lunches they ever had and the pleasure of eating. Such a meal was one of the few occasions the leader could even take a break from the repetitive struggles he endured. But the stress had been building up. He had been feeling worse every day that went by. He felt as if something had to give, that his relief could not last. An abrupt, convulsed pain that seized him and wrenched the fleeting respite from his troubled mind. He doubled down, coughing uncontrollably, presently imploring somebody to help him as his body writhed against the ground. Shouts and screams of terror only added to the deathly cacophony. "Somebody see him! He's choking! Quick!" came a cry from across the table. Several aides heeded the call and rushed to this lodge where it was caught in the leader's throat, yet, try as they may, not one of them could stem the coughing. It soon became clear that something was far more serious, not that any of those present were willing to admit it. Eventually it all ended, the dreadful whooping faded into a whimper and the old man rolled backwards. He gasped until his lungs were filled with air and he relaxed his arms, bringing his hands away from his face. However, once he could summon the strength to open his eyes, the fierce dread flooded back into him. His hands were wet with his own blood. The man could not hold his fears any longer. He had to go get out. He had to get help. As he exited, he was followed by his advisors, who nervously expected the worst of Franco. Those who did not leave turned to his wife, who sat silent and still, quietly pulling at the pearls of her necklace. She was worried that her husband would never be the same again. I'm going to take a guess and say that it's cancer. That he's... I mean, how did he die? Like, how did he actually die? I don't actually know. But I'm taking a guess and say that he's got a cancer. That's my my prediction here. Because he's, again, I think he's still like the de jure head of state of the Iberian Federation. Like, it's still got the Cadilos. They just are more of a ceremonial role, as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm, like, I think that's the case. I mean, it seems likely. Like, that makes sense to me. Okay, and he'll be done in about a little bit more than a week. General tax cut, allow private services. More GDP growth. Invest in energy. Let the market sort itself out. I mean, a lot of trade relations. I mean, I guess that's like okay, but it's not like the craziest thing ever. Okay, you know, let the market sort itself out. I'm sure that'll work out just fine. And there's nothing again like we can do. Cause like I mean, like right now, like you seem like you're basically a I mean, apparently the Pothas joined Iraq as well. Like I don't know. They all seem pretty united, and now that there's peace in the region, can the oil crisis end before you do all the focuses? Like, can this just be at peace long enough for? I mean, I guess they might still go to war. I don't know, but can they be at peace long enough for this to be kind of irrelevant? I don't really remember. So you finished your. Why is mine so long? Like America's done theirs. Disaster averted. I mean, Germany's is also pretty long. Emergency powers, unless this has nothing to do with the oil crisis. I mean, it does. I mean, Germany's actually got a very, very big tree that they got to deal with. Let's go with the 1970 tank. And then we'll upgrade the APC to be a little bit better. Also, I do think it's kind of funny that the communists and the fascists here are part of the same alliance group. I have no idea how friendly they would actually be. Okay, it looks like the Republic of Sudan has won their war. You two down there are still fighting it out. We'll see who wins there. But I guess it's not a major cause of concern for ourselves. Our level of involvement. Despite our free market ideology, some civil servants and government officials have come forward to make a case for necessary legislation regulating corporate behavior. By allowing a free hand to all businesses, they argue that we run the risk of exacerbating the current crisis unnecessarily. Structural issues concerning the labor market and environmental regulation could create a long-lasting, unintended negative consequences. Others have reacted to the claims with harsh venom. The extreme free marketers continue to hold by the mantra that the only good market regulation is no market regulation. A choice that has to be made. Do we support slight reform and policy compromise upon our ideals, or do we hold steadfast and run the risk of letting the crisis further tank the Iberian economy? Interest rates will decrease slightly. Interest rates will decrease. I mean, we'll do a little nudge in time of crisis. I feel like doing absolutely nothing probably isn't the best strategy for us here. Like I might be wrong. I might be wrong. But I do feel like not doing anything really isn't much of a choice. I mean, let's also, you know, let's draw an offensive line into you, because you right now you're aligning yourselves with the Italians. I mean, Italy's doing they're doing pretty alright for themselves. I feel like Germany's definitely doing better for sure. You're Italian. Serbia, Greece, like neither of you guys are really part of anything. Turkey's not really choosing a side either, which isn't a huge surprise. I don't think any of these guys really have any focus trees. Like, does anybody have any focus trees right now in the area? I don't think so. Especially about like 1971, most countries are basically at their peak, right? Like Britain's, I mean, Britain actually still surprisingly has a lot of stuff left to do in their focus tree, but I mean, yeah, they got, I mean, they're almost done. Like once this is over, I'm pretty sure that's probably the last decision they'll have. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the work of God is the final focus for Iberia. Okay, let us find some new markets to sell our stuff in. Because, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense that, you know, this would kind of be the... if only we weren't going through a crisis right now. Yeah, then we're going to definitely side the OFN. We do need to get a lot of stuff done to actually become their friend. But I mean, they should at least, I think, have a positive opinion of us. Yeah, they have plus 40. Mostly because we helped them win the Civil War. You guys not Civil War, help them in the South African War. I don't like them, probably because of different ideology. But once we're on an alliance together, like, is there anybody else who's in the, yeah, there's New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the United States, Guyana, and Britain. So, I mean, like, the Alliance of Free Nations, I guess the Organization of Free Nations, they're not actually, like, that powerful. I mean, they're powerful because of the United States. The United States is a powerful country. That's really about it. I mean, you could probably make the argument that, like, joining up to the United States, if there was a theoretical war between the US and Germany, that we would basically be the front line. Which, I mean, isn't... Not great. People probably wouldn't like that very much. But... Oh, what's this? The Ghost of the Exilio Social. Ramir Igleras knew the pain of losing a mother. During the Civil War, her mother had fled the rebel advance on Toledo, joining Ramiria and her husband in Madrid. A few months later, she was killed when a motor struck the house. A few weeks after that were hard, and the image of her mother's blood-soaked, galvanized face haunted her both in her waking hours and in her nightmares. Months after were hard too. It never stopped being hard after her mama died, not even in 1971. She wasn't the only one to lose a mother. Far too many mothers had died in the war. At least Ramira was lucky enough to have a caring husband to rely on, old enough to survive and rebuild her life, and one day raise children of her own. What of those who were less likely, those left orphaned or homeless? What of the children and the infants? Ramira could not bring back her own mother, or any of the mothers of the children who he worked for in the Auxilia Social. But she could offer a warm meal every night, a mattress to sleep on, a chance to learn the Gospels, perhaps even offer a conversation to a lonely boy or girl. Ramira joined the Exilio Social because she cared for children and could understand their pain. A lot has changed in the decades since her mother's death. The Nationalists won the war and molded the Exilio Social into an institution to provide for, educate, and indoctrinate orphaned youth. After the Union formed, she had chosen to lead operation in the Portuguese city of Setúbal, and now, after the end of the Cadilla's reign, the new government has shuttered Exilio Social entirely on account of its propagandizing. Ramira wasn't going to stop living after her mother died. She wasn't going to give up on working after Exilio Social was dissolved. After receiving her husband's permission, Ramira purchased the Exilio Social building. By soliciting donations and recruiting former co-workers, she rebuilt the actual Social, at least in Setúbal. It would take a while to recover from the loss of government support, but as long as there existed death, crime, and suffering, there would be children in need, and that fact alone drove Ramira to keep on working. Charity would not end after the Cadillo. So are they not in charge? Did they just go into retirement? Okay, let's do a tax cut. Let's just, like, we don't need government income. I do like that, market liberal is so uncommon in the New Order that they don't even have a description for it. And the symbol is still the Kaiserreich symbol. Like, you could go to any of these other ones, they have kind of like their own unique symbol. You know, despots got their own one, conservatives, authoritarian democracy, all of them basically. Market liberal, just nothing. And again, we are the only country on Earth that's considered market liberal. Apparently, Italy can go market liberal as well. Yeah, like the United States doesn't even have it as an option. Canada doesn't have it as an option. Does Britain? Like, who actually has market liberal as an ideology? Not many. Got a little bit. No, that's liberal. Yeah, you don't have it either. I mean, even for us, liberal democracy is actually still the biggest chunk of the pie. Okay, Italy has like a tiny amount. Yeah, but like nobody in the entire like world has it. Which I think is kind of funny. Don't worry about Japan. They're just having a bit of a nightmare right now. What about Free France? Nope, nothing going on there as well. So apparently, like, libertarians just love Spain and Italy. I don't know what it is about Spain and Italy, but they are loving it. They're having the best times of their lives over here in Iberia. I mean, we still got like exemplary stability. Like we're not close to like completely falling apart, which is nice. And again, there's no terrorism or anything going on in the country, so I'm not too sure how I could possibly screw this up. Because you're feeling political power. You don't actually... It doesn't say you actually end the crisis. So I'm hoping that if we finish the oil crisis, that doesn't, like, screw us over and not actually be able to finish, all of this stuff. If it does, I can probably get, like, a workaround to go. Our only hope of economic survival is to ride out the storm or pray for a miracle. So maybe actually after a while it does just kind of go away. I mean, like, none of you guys are at war. You're all getting Weimar advisors, even the communist. Not really what you would expect, but okay. Okay, so we can negotiate with the creditors. Let us follow that up with allowing the private services. You've been assassinated, so we might see Iran actually follow into a civil war as well. The creditors' demands. With the backdrop of the current economic crisis, we have run into further problems. Many creditors have become restless with the worst economic situation. They now demand their interest payments on government debt to be moved forward in order to safeguard their other investments. Our state should only be a simple night watchman, providing law and order to ensure uncompromised movement in the free market. For us to accumulate debts is a sin and represents failure. We likely should hence pay them back now. Yeah, we're completely in our right to withhold on these payments. The previous payments had all gone according to procedure. We are targeted to effectively deal with the debt in the near future. The demands to pay back now seems preposterous. To deal with both the crisis and these payments result in terrible economic consequences. You know what? We've been taking, like, the lame road so far, so we'll give them, like, a little inch. The second Knight of Long Knives. Does that give you, like, a new focus tree? No, okay. Germany, if you want to, like, kill yourself, that's fine. The King of Football. To Paco Gento, proclaims Jamie, and as a trio drown their cannaes in beer. There's stuff going on in the background, just ignore it for now. The best footballer in the country has ever known, he added. His friends scoffed, as he knew they would. He had just reignited that old debate waged in every bar, cafe, and schoolyard across Iberia. Jamie, Paul! I know the man just retired, but you don't have to exaggerate, said Juan. Gento is good, no doubt, but Ricardo Zimmer was El Divino. There won't ever be a star like him. He pointed at Pepe, the third member of the group, as he popped an olive into his mouth. And you? Don't you dare bring up Pietro. Pepe laughed and did anyways. Fernando Pedro was the best, my friend. As much as it hurts, you have to admit it. Even if the best wasn't Spanish. 554 goals in 334 matches for the Sporting Club of Lisbon, and 15 for Portugal. No one has numbers like that. You and your numbers, grown with Juan, numbers won't tell you anything about a goalkeeper. I feel like it would. I feel like that would be actually really important. It's a more practically invented goalkeeping, and he may as well have ended it. No one will top him. Jamie shook his head while signaling the bartender for another round. Bill's stuck in the past, same as everybody else. Neither of you even saw these guys play. They're ancient, and more importantly, he said, lifting up his finger with authority, one was Spanish and one was Portuguese. Paco Gento, as you see, he is Iberian, the best Iberian footballer of all time. The argument would rage into the night over more canais and tapas across several bars with no resolution. The drunken trio were forced to call upon the hapless bartender to break the stalemate. But I do think, at least for right now, is going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So thanks to everybody for watching. As I Anthem, if you've enjoyed, thumbs up. Not joking, thumbs down. If you want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.